What brought you to it? What appealed to you about it? Or what's your feelings about your character? Just hitting with the general ones first.
All right, let's jump right into it. First and foremost, obviously, the pedigree of the producers is there. These guys know how to drive a ship. I was telling someone earlier, my first meeting with Joel was 3 hours long. And I went from feeling like, I'm not sure about this, to, dude, that's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. So, like, you know, the fact that he's driving this ship makes me feel confident that this story is going to go in the right direction and it has the potential to last. The material, the way it was written, was very interesting to me because despite all of the cool stuff and the technology and the idea that this guy is synthetic, there's so many little things that I find interesting and relatable to what it is we're kind of going through now. You know, there's discrimination. There's political correctness. Don't call me a fucking robot. You know what I mean? Like that's you can't say that. You can't say that to him. It's offensive. And you know, the idea that a robot, a machine, could be offended. I'm like, okay. Listen, you gotta wrap your head around this for a second. Like, this is something where we're not there yet right now. But because the show is set in the near future, it's right around the corner. Someone asked me, have you ever been interested in the future like this? I was like, no. Never been interested in the future. Not that I didn't care about my future, it's just I never really thought about the future, where we're going to be. But the show has made me think, well, my kids will be living in a world that could be similar to this. You know, like my son could potentially be partnered with a Dorian if he becomes. I mean, you know, you don't know. So it's one of those things where it provokes so much thought and intrigue that instantly it's like, this is the one you sign up to.
So as an actor, how do you balance the trying to show the emotions but also be the, you know, the machine and everything? Yeah, so how do you balance that, you know, being both the machine and the emotional
It
character?
is by far the most difficult role to try and play human, machine, human. Which one is he in this scene and which one is he in that scene? And Joel and Brad Anderson are actually director on the pilot. Were very helpful in helping me kind of find those fine lines. And I based this guy on I based Dorian on 3 particular characters in movie history that I've seen. Jason Bourne,
Okay.
Robert Patrick's Terminator, and Starman. Jeff Bridges movie. And so I've kind of based them on those three characters, and so that has helped me kind of gauge how far I can go in this particular moment, or how small I can be in this, and it's been incredible, and you know, I look forward to, you know, where he's going to be in other episodes and the kind of levels that he can that I can play with this guy.
What journey?
In the pilot, there looks like there's quite a scope for humour between between John and Dorian. Is that going to play out, or are you told to be a bit more serious?
I think the humor plays nicely in the show without being forced. You know, you read the script and you might go, huh. You know what I mean? That might be your reaction, and I think that's enough. You know, it never feels sitcom-y. It never feels like it's a setup, like, ooh, this is a great one. It's more, usually the humor is inadvertent, or it's just the irony of the moment. Especially from John's perspective. It's like, wow, really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is, really? You know, like, again, you're offended that I called you. You know what I mean? And Detective Paul, played by Michael Ealy, he constantly refers to me as Bob. And that is, I mean, to Dorian, that's the equivalent of certain terms that we don't say anymore in this day and age.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what I mean? He has to kind of check himself. So, but the humor itself, like I said, I think we got a nice blend of that right now. But I think it's honest, it's truthful, And there is truth in jest, and I think that is what we're playing with right now.
What do you think that Dorian will learn from John over the course of the series, and then also John learn from Dorian?
Wow, good question. I think John will grow. I'm hoping that Dorian's hunger for humanity will cause John to understand that he's blessed, and what he has is special. And what I hope, I'll flip that, what I hope Dorian understands is, that everything human is not good, and sometimes being able to do what you're able to do, I don't think Dorian necessarily, because it's just like so natural, I hate to say natural, but it's programmed in him to be able to figure out the pixels in this particular camp. Like, he could do all of that, and it's nothing to him. So he doesn't appreciate that. And I hope that he learns to appreciate some of that. And I think, based on what I've read so far, that's going to come. That's going to come, especially in the relationship between him and Rudy, played by Mackenzie. Their relationship is going to grow. We're going to start to understand those two a little bit more.
Yeah, that's your character had a line in the pilot that I wrote down because it just struck me so interesting. But he said that I want to be a cop, and for an android to want something, which is something that is distinctly human, or at least you think it's distinctly human. Can you talk about how exploring the humanity through the eyes of this non-human and how he might be in pursuit of a more recognized state of humanity? I mean, is that something that you see, you try to bring into the character? Or?
By all means, I like to call him or describe him as a reflection of the humanity that we all take for granted daily. There are people in this world who don't understand the preciousness of what it is to have a child, when they walk away or run from that responsibility. And that lack of humanity is something that Dorian cannot fathom. Because he wants it so bad. He tends to, I like to consider him as very observant. Not so much intuitive, but observant of human behavior. And so if he sees you make a sad face, he wants to know, okay, well, what does that feel like? What does that sadness feel like? Because he really wants to try and feel it. And ultimately, where he's going to go, I mean, it still remains to be seen, but I feel like his humanity, or his desire to embrace humanity, I think that sets him apart from other machines that we've seen in the past. And I think it's what's going to make, it kind of gives a hopeful tone to the show. Oftentimes in futuristic shows or sci-fi shows, you see that man and machine don't coexist. I think what we're trying to say is that these two hopefully can coexist and create a bigger model, create a model for the masses of society to understand that man and machine can work together. And that's Dorian's. Dorian would love it if there were more Dorians out there. He would love it if there were more Dorians out there. But it's right. He is coming out of being decommissioned, and that's a hard thing for him to swallow.
The newer models of the robot partners are less appealing. They're more robotic. I mean, I hope that they look at you as you've been recommissioned and say, we need to get back to this model.
That'd be cool, wouldn't it? It's interesting because those guys, the MX-43s, they look like superheroes. They're all like 6'4". It's like ooh, and Dorian looks like he gets intimidating. Because it's like they can't. He knows that at the end of the day, they are machines. They can't do what I can do, and they can't think like I can think, and they will never be able to feel like I can feel. And he has a certain amount of pride in that, and at the same time, I think I think what John has to learn is Dorian can be more hopeful than hurtful. You know, because he's not an MX-40. He can be more helpful than hurtful. And that's a slow grind for him. That's a slow grind.
Thanks.
So we'll see how it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.